Next thing we're going to do is add 3 belt loops. So I'm going to just move my draw cord out of the way here. I am going to create the belt loops 2 inches by a 1/2 inch. Okay, so just come here, make them 2 inches by 1/2 inch. And then I need 3 of them, so I have 1 at center back. I'm just going to right click clone shape only, 1 at side seam, and then my side seam one can be symmetrical. Okay, so I have 3 belt loops. Now, the belt loops are going to lay on top of the body, and then they're going to sew up top of the waistband and stitch to the top edge, and then they're going to stitch to the body below the waist. Okay, so my first belt loop is going to go at center back. Center back on my waistband is actually this seam right here. Okay, so I need this to stitch to either side of center back. So I'm actually going to add a corner point at 1/4 inch. So this way I can click here, multi-stitch 2, and I need to start on this side. 1, 2, and hit done. Okay, so that makes sense because this is going to sit like this, so this side needs to stitch here, and this side needs to stitch to the other side of the waistband. Alright, now the other side of this is going to hit on the waist. Okay, and I may want, this is 2 and this is 2 inches. My waistband is 1.5 inches, so I would want this to sit 1/2 inch below, but I may want it to go a little above so the belt loop isn't totally flat. It has like a little bit of curvature to it. So I'm going to insert a point for guidance, maybe 0.375. Okay. And then I'm going to use the pen tool, turn off edit points. I'm going to snap to that point I just added. And I want this line to be 1/4 inch. I'm just going to do this manually until I get about 1/4 inch and drop that point. I'm going to click escape to get out. And again, I'm going to use multi-stitch from 2, one side of center back, the other side of center back. Done. My pant is on layer 2 and my waistband is on layer 3. I'm going to make my belt loops, all 3 of them, layer 4, with a grid of 0.6. For my side seams, belt loops, okay, my waistband is cinched, so I don't know exactly where it's going to go up here. Okay, so I'm actually going to use the match tool. But for the side here, I'm going to have the belt loop sit back from the side seam just a tad. So I'm going to, let's see, insert a point at 0.375 like we did on the center back. I'm going to use that point as a guidance to make 1/4 inch dashed line. And then I'm just going to maybe set it off from the side seam just a bit, okay? Oh, you know what? This one has to be 1/2 inch, not 1/4, because I'm only stitching it onto the back. So since I already have it created, I'm just going to click on it, go to scale, and say 0.5. Okay, now I'm going to move it back a little bit. And I'm going to stitch this side to here, flip it. So my belt loop is essentially going right here, and my waistband is about here, but we know that it's sheared. So I'm going to stitch this top edge to this top edge, flip, match, And I'm just going to slide this. I'm going to slide a little further than I think it shows up right here. Maybe I went too far. You can kind of see where you're going. Alright. And then I'm going to go to Arrange. I'm going to take these belt loops. I'm going to put them on the back low waist. And I'm just going to put them in their own cluster because I want them to dress flat. Okay. I'm going to make sure the center one is pretty centered and the ones to the side are off to the side. It looks like all of them need to be raised. Okay. And I'm going to dress. Okay, so we have belt loops. Alright, looks like this one needs to be shifted back. Okay, so you can shift it and dress until you have it sitting about where you want it to sit. Oh, not too far. Okay, you get the general idea. And then obviously you can add top stitches to your belt loops. Maybe you want maybe you want a top stitch that's offset through 1/16 inch. On each side. Too much. There we go. Okay. Do it on all the belt loops. Okay. And then I didn't add a bar tack in here for you, but if you had a bar tack, you could also put a bar tack up here as well. Okay, that is everything we're going to do for the pants. So, moving on to the jacket. Let's see this. On the jacket, we're going to add an elastic band instead of the rib band at the bottom edge. And we're going to add a single welt at the sides and utility cargo pockets at the chest. Okay. So I'm going to turn these back on. Oops. Just the pieces, not the lines. Okay, my looks like at least I got a little twisted somehow. Hopefully that dresses well. Okay, so make sure you update layers now that we've added the draw cord. The front of the jacket needs to be updated so that the draw cord stays below once we add the jacket back. So the first thing we're going to do is change this rib to a sandwiched elastic on the edge. So you can do one of two things. You can make a new elastic piece, or you can change this rib to an elastic piece instead of a rib. So let's measure the bottom sweep. This is too much. 43 inches. My rib is 42 inches. I probably want my elastic to be a little bit smaller, so I'm just going to remove this. I'm going to make a new rectangle. Okay. And this can be, we can make this a symmetrical piece. So perhaps we want it to be 40 inches. So I'm going to do 20 and then create edge symmetry. And then I just want to make sure the height is, let's say 3/8 of an inch. Okay. I'm going to apply this elastic material to it. And then the same thing with the neckband. I want to sew it so that the bottom edge is at the bottom edge, and then the top edge is sewn onto the body, which means I need to make my sew line. So I'm going to clone by offset, minus 0.375, extend to edges, apply. I'm going to multi-stitch. Okay, so my center front, I want to be the open edge because I have a zipper here. I'm going to click here, multi-stitch to the bottom front to the bottom back. Done. Top edge of the binding, multi-stitch to internal line, done. Okay. Then I just want to make sure this is on a higher level, so this, my jacket's now at 5, I'm going to make this now at 6, and I just want to make sure the grid is small enough that it works well. Okay. Now when I removed that rib, I lost my zipper because the zipper was sewn to the body and the rib. So I just need to add this back in here. Okay. And let's just change the zipper width back to a 1/2 inch. And I'm going to go to arrange. I'm going to add this. Let's see, add it to the back low waist. This looks okay. I'm going to put it up above the jacket just to make it a little bit easier to dress. And dress. Okay, so the idea with the elastic is that it's going to kind of cinch it in a little bit. And let's make sure these edges are not stitched to each other. I'm going to add some seam properties to the elastic. I'm just going to add a force multiplier because technically this would be like a fold over elastic, but we're only applying one edge, one side of it. And let's see. You may just need to pinch it a little bit to give it, hope that elastic can lay flatter. So this is kind of the look we want, right? We want it to be not super cinched, but just give that little slight bubble shape that we see on some puffy type jackets or rain jackets. All right. Next, we're going to add single welt pockets. So first thing I need to do is create my welt. I'm going to insert a rectangle again. This time, my welts, I gave you 3/4 by 6 inches. So 3/4 by 6. And then I gave you some placements. So to create placements, essentially what we're going to do is use clone by offset to create our intersection points. So the first one is the bottom of the pocket is placed at 2 inches above the bottom hem. So I'm going to clone by offset -2. I don't need to extend to edges because I'm just using it to get that original placement. The bottom of the pocket from the side seam is 2.5 inches in. And the top of the pocket is 5 inches in. Okay, so essentially what I'm doing here is I'm snapping the corner of the pocket to this intersection point. And then I'm rotating it. Oops. I'm going to move my gizmo to that point and rotate about that point so that this point of the pocket hits that 5-inch line that I created. All right, so I can remove these guidelines and I'm going to take these lines, each of them, and I'm going to click Trace as Internal. So now I just need to sew these. So I'm going to make this a symmetrical piece, and I'm going to sew each edge except for the opening to the body. Okay, I'm going to leave the opening open. I'm not making this a real pocket. I'm not putting real pocket bags in there. I'm just going to stitch this to the top.